Hello and welcome back to another video where today we will be talking about everything we know about Far Cry 6. So Far Cry 6 is an upcoming game made by Ubisoft. It releases on the 7th of October on the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, Stadia, Uplay and the Epic Games Store. In the game you play as a character called Danny Rojas, and akin to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can either choose to be male or female, but unlike Valhalla, you get to choose at the beginning of the game and then you can't switch halfway through. So the basic plot for this game is after trying to escape Yara, your boat crashes and you wash up on the southernmost island of Yara, and while exploring it you meet a character called Clara, who is the leader of an rebellion group called Libertad, who wants to take down Anton Castillo, who is the president of Yara, played by Giancarlo Esposito. And under Anton Castillo's rule, Yara is kind of becoming very oppressed, and so Libertad want to take him down to hopefully bring a brighter future to Yara. We also know that Anton has a son called Diego, who was played by Anthony Gonzalez, and judging by the trailers, Anton is trying to make Diego the next president of Yara, and possibly that could be what Libertad want as well, as under a different ruler, maybe Yara would go back to being a much more peaceful place to live. That's all I'm going to talk about the story, so now let's move on to gameplay. Just like most of the previous Far Cry games, that being Far Cry 3 to New Dawn, Far Cry 6 has a very similar gameplay style, but unlike those previous games, there are a couple of new features that I'm going to get into. The first thing I'm going to talk about is some of the new weapons. The first one I'm going to talk about is something called resolver weapons. These are powerful weapons that are made up of different objects. For example, there is a Gatling gun that is seen in a trailer that is made up of an engine from a motorbike. There are also a few other resolver weapons. There's one that shoots fireworks. There's also one that is a disc launcher. We've got a flamethrower and a silenced nail gun. These weapons are kind of like the more outlandish weapons, as in Far Cry games some of the game can be a bit outlandish, so this is kind of like the more random bit. We also have Supremo Backpacks. They are powerful, ranged and AoE weapons. There is one Supremo Backpack that is equipped with mortars that will home onto enemies when you use it. Another one lifts Danny off the ground and simultaneously floods the ground around them with fire, burning anyone close to it. These Supremo Backpacks are kind of like your super move in the game. You do it by pressing either L1 or R1 or LB and RB, and like there's a gauge on the side where it ticks up over time, and then once the bar's filled you can press it and do the attack. Moving on to a different type of weapon, we are going to talk about Amigos. Amigos are similar to what was seen in Far Cry 5 with the Fangs for Hire. They've just been given a new name, and unlike Far Cry 5, you don't get any human amigos. These are all animals. The first one I'm going to talk about is Guapo, and he's been shown off quite a lot in the promotional marketing for Far Cry 6. He is a crocodile who is good in combat. You can tag enemies with him and he will just go in and kill them essentially. You get him quite early on in the story. Once you met with Clara, she will kind of direct you to one who is the quartermaster essentially, and he also makes the resolver weapons and Supremo Backpacks. You'll get a cutscene with one, and at the end of it you will get Guapo. This next amigo is also one that has been featured fairly heavily in the promotional material. That is Chorizo, who is a little sausage dog who is disabled, and he is good for stealth, and you can send him into an area that you say there's an enemy guarding a certain place you need to get into. You can send Chorizo in and he will actually distract the guard for you. and then you can sneak behind him and just stealth attack him. At this time, we don't know how you unlock him, so just gonna have to wait until the game comes out. But by the sound of it, he can be pretty useful, and everyone in the game finds him pretty cute. This next amigo is called Chicharron, and this is kind of getting into the more outlandish Far Cry space, as he is a rooster who is good in combat, and he wears a kind of like spiked collar, and in the gameplay that we've seen, he likes destruction, which seems to be taken a little bit too far as a rooster. But you get him by completing the Yaren story Wingman. Now, these next two amigos we haven't actually seen, so the design of these, we don't know what they look like, but the first one is a dog called Boom Boom, and judging by the silhouette that has been shown briefly in a couple of people's gameplay videos, he looks very similar to Boomer from Far Cry 5. I'm going to go as far to say that Boom Boom is literally the same character as Boomer. In Far Cry 5, Boomer was good for stealth, as he would kind of tag all the enemies in the area, so you could like take them out. And I'm going to guess that Boom Boom will be very similar. You get him by completing the Yaren story Boom or Bust. This next amigo is Oso. I may have butchered that name entirely, but they are a big cat that is good for stealth, so I can see them being similar to Boomer, and they might be similar to the big cat that we saw in Far Cry 5. I believe its name was Peaches. I'll put on the screen what Peaches' abilities were in Far Cry 5, so I can see that being the case in 6, and you get them by completing the Yara story Triad Blessing. And the last amigo we know of is one that you don't actually get in the main game. They are called Champagne, and they are a panther that you get in the Vice Pack, and I'll talk about the Vice Pack a little later on. Okay, so now let's move on to the DLCs of Far Cry 6. First of all, we're going to talk about the free DLC, as it will be available to everyone who purchased the game after launch. With the free DLCs, you get crossovers with Danny Trejo, Rambo, and Stranger Things, and you also get weekly multiplayer operations, insurgencies, and special ops. Okay, so now let's talk about the season pass that you get in various editions of the game, and also can be purchased separately. The main bulk of the season pass are 3 story DLCs that focus on previous villains from the Far Cry games, those being Vast from Far Cry 3, Pagan Min from Far Cry 4, and Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5. Alongside these, you also get the game Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon and the Blood Dragon pack. Okay, lastly, let's move in to the different editions of the game. There are 4 in total. The standard edition, that you just get the game and that's it. There is the gold edition that gets you the base game as well as the season pass. There is the ultimate edition that gets you the base game, the season pass, and the ultimate pack. And inside the ultimate pack is the Jungle Expedition pack, the Croc Hunter pack, and the Vice pack. The Vice pack is actually where Champagne the Panther is from. And lastly, there is the Collector's Edition, and in it you get the Ultimate Edition of the game, a replica of the Toastador, a map of Yara, and the soundtrack, as well as a few other things. Now, whenever you pre-order any of these editions, you get the pre-order bonus of the Libertad pack that gives you the Libertad outfit, as well as the Discos Locos, which is the previously mentioned disc launcher. And that is everything we know about Far Cry 6, which at the time of me uploading this is only 2 weeks away. So if you've liked this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in another video.